Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Sony has just revealed how it plans to fix its Venomverse of connected movies that it had tried to make before the disasters that were Morbius and Madame Web. They were sort of building up to their own version of Sinister Six. They had all these interconnected plans to make their own version of the MCU, which basically collapsed this past year. And the big surprise is their plan to fix that is by bringing Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire back in a really big way. I know a lot of you have been asking for them to just make Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man 3 and Tobey Maguire's version of Spider-Man 4. Like, if you want more Spider-Man in your Sony universe, why don't you just give them their own movies? Turns out that's kind of what Sony is planning on doing, only not the way that you think. Like, they're not going to make actual Amazing Spider-Man 3 and call it Amazing Spider-Man 3, or the same with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4. They're already doing Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man 4 in the MCU. But we'll break it all down because it's every bit as bonkers a plan you would expect Sony to try and pull off, and it involves Tom Hardy's Venom character, too. Speaking of crazy movie plots, Deadpool and Wolverine coming out soon. We're actually doing a giveaway for movie tickets. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and just post all your reactions to Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire coming back in the comments. I did a video a little while ago about Sony's current plan to end their Venom solo movies with Tom Hardy. Like, Venom movies essentially canceled after the stuff they've already made, which is Venom 3. So you will get a chance to see Venom 3, but that's it for his version of Venom in terms of solo movies. They're going to continue him as a version of Venom. They'll just put him in other people's movies. Also, I think they want to put him in Secret Wars eventually. But it also seems like them ending their Venom movies and beginning these Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire movies with them coming back are connected. It's pretty unbelievable, but I wouldn't put it past Sony to do anything. They make so much money on Spider-Man, and they've done so poorly with the other spin-off movies they tried to do without Spider-Man. So they're like, how do we fix this? How do we actually earn money on these? What if we put Spider-Man in them, or a version of Spider-Man? There's even a new rumor now that one of the real reasons why Madame Web had to delete all the Spider-Man scenes and references, like, this is a version of Ezekiel Sims fighting their version of Spider-Man that we're going to put in the movie. This was going to be part of the Terminator plot of the movie where Ezekiel Sims was traveling back in time to try and kill Peter Parker before he was born, but they wound up taking all that stuff out of the movie and completely changing it. We all assumed they did that because smarter heads inside Sony prevailed. They're like, you know what, let's just pull way back on these crazy Spider-Man plans in this movie. They also kind of messed up the timelines on when Peter Parker was supposed to be born. If they were going to do Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield, they were born way earlier in the timeline. But now, based on these new reports, it sounds like they actually just gave that Terminator Spider-Man plot to another movie, and that other movie might wind up being Venom 3 of all places. So here's where you connect the dots between Venom 3, ending that franchise basically, and bringing back Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, doing more specific Spider-Man stuff. There was a new rumor that they just gave this save young Peter Parker's life before he becomes Spider-Man plot to Venom 3, and during the events of Venom 3, we will see a 10-year-old version of Peter Parker on Venom's Earth. Like I said, it's almost the exact same plot from Madame Web, so you can see why they might have gotten rid of that plot during Madame Web. Like, you know what, we'll just let this movie do its own thing and get rid of that Spider-Man plot and give that to Venom 3. But doing that raises way more questions than it answers, like what is going on over at Sony? Think about it this way, the Venom movies have largely taken place in the same present day that Tom Holland's MCU Spider-Man has taken place inside the MCU. Like, the post-credit scenes sync up their timelines with Spider-Man No Way Home and Venom Let There Be Carnage. That means Venom 3 in his universe takes place between the events of Spider-Man No Way Home and Tom Holland's Spider-Man 4. So if there's a Peter Parker that's only 10 years old in Venom's universe, that means his Peter Parker is probably a totally different version that won't be Tom Holland when he grows up to become Spider-Man. Apparently Toxin is supposed to be one of the big villains. Maybe there's some other villains during that. And going on that, it just seems like Sony's plan to pivot to more profitable Spider-Man spin-off movies is to make movies with actual Spider-Man in them and just wind up using an older version of this young Peter Parker they introduce in Venom 3. But because it will take a while for that to happen, they bring back Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire before that Spider-Man gets aged up and introduced in his universe. If you remember, back when they were making the Morbius movie, they tried to get Andrew Garfield to come back, and they tried to get Tobey Maguire to come back. Apparently, both of them said no, and that's why there were so many Tobey Maguire Easter eggs and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man Easter eggs in the original trailers for that, because at the time they were hoping to actually get them come back to cameo. One of my theories is they were just going to say that the Venom universe is Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man universe. It would have solved a ton of problems for Sony, like make things just way simpler. But this doesn't mean that Sony is making Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 or Amazing Spider-Man 3. It sounds more like they'd be bringing them back for multiple movies and just telling those stories for those movies in other movies, just like spreading it across a couple different movies, kind of like what they've done for the Hulk in the MCU. I don't know if their sharing deal with Tom Holland's Spider-Man in the MCU prevents them from being able to name one of their live-action solo movies Spider-Man, like put Spider-Man in the title of a bunch of their own movies. I think their way around this with the Spider-Verse movies is the fact that they're animated and they're so different, like it's Miles Morales and all these multiverse Spider-Man, so it doesn't necessarily create a lot of brand confusion with the live-action MCU Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. But if you start doing a bunch of live-action Spider-Man movies and calling them Spider-Man as well, then you do start to run into this overcrowding problem. Maybe they can work something out with Marvel so they don't wind up stepping on each other's toes and hurting all Spider-Man movie box office. Like, they don't want to take away the billions of dollars they can earn with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Maybe they can come to some kind of new arrangement with Marvel that will allow them to continue using the Spider-Man name in the live-action movies outside of Tom Holland movies. There was also the live-action Sinister Six movies that Sony was hoping to do before Morbius and Madam Web tanked. So there are a couple options that they have about what they could name these movies that they bring Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire back for. Everybody let me know in the comments, if they're going to bring them back, but just inside the Sony universe, what do you want them to call those movies that they put them in? But if their big thing is working up to a version of their own Spider-Man that they can put in all their separate spin-off movies that they make without Marvel Kevin Feige's help, there are a lot of different directions for them to take this. Very easy to use Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire as a mentor Spider-Man to a younger version of Peter Parker's Spider-Man from another universe without completely retreading everything they just did in Spider-Man No Way Home. Or they can just bring them back each in their own separate movies or together without younger versions of Spider-Man. Like just the two of them working together to solve some larger problem. There are just so many questions I have if they're actually going to be doing this 10-year-old version of Peter Parker in Venom 3. Like, is this a time travel plot? Like, is there some sort of time travel component and he goes back in time? Or is this happening in the present day of his universe and it'll be some different version of Spider-Man in the future? Both the plots of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 and Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man 3 have been well documented. They were very far along in those movies when they elected to recast. I've already done much larger videos on Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4, so I'll link that at the end of this and down in the description below. But Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man 3 was meant to coexist with a totally separate Sinister Six spin-off movie that they were making. That's what that Amazing Spider-Man 2 post-credit scene was all about with all those power suits. It would have released around the same time as Amazing Spider-Man 3 came out, and if you look at some of the Easter eggs they included here, like zoom in and enhance on this particular screen, really important ones, they tease Andrew Garfield's version of Morbius in Venom. Most of these other references are to the Sinister Six mechanical suits and weapons. So part of the idea is that Amazing Spider-Man 3 would have started Andrew Garfield's Venom symbiote saga based on the comics, but just changed from Tobey Maguire's version a bit so that it wasn't exactly the same as his film. If you remember, there was even a bit of a reference to this during Spider-Man No Way Home. When they were all talking about fighting aliens, Tobey Maguire told them about fighting his version of Venom. Andrew Garfield said that he wanted to fight an alien too. That was basically them saying that he had not yet fought his version of Venom in the years since Amazing Spider-Man 2 had taken place. So here's how they could bring Tom Hardy's Venom character back and cross him over with actual Spider-Man in a movie. You just put him in a movie with Andrew Garfield. And just like it seems like they had planned to do before when the Morbius movie came out, they can say that Venom's Earth is Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man Earth. Now, Sony also has that live-action Miles Morales movie that they said they want to make. They haven't announced exactly how that'll go down with everything that's happening in Across the Spider-Verse. Like, I think it's meant to be a completely different version of Miles Morales. But I do think Sony also wants to get either Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield to come back for that movie as well, too, as a mentor Spider-Man. There's a number of different directions they could go with that. Like, they could either say that he comes from Venom's universe, like that same Earth, or they could say he comes from a totally different one, and that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield also come from different universes, so they don't have to kill one of them off to give live-action Miles Morales his origin story. But don't these pictures of Andrew Garfield wearing sweatpants with his Spider-Man suit give you vibes of Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse? Like, oh my gosh, he could be the midlife crisis Spider-Man that gives the sage wisdom to the brand new Miles Morales Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire would also work well for that too, like the older version of Spider-Man. But it still seems like everything at Sony is complete chaos outside of the Spider-Verse movies. Still expect Beyond the Spider-Verse to be a complete banger. But everything in their live-action movies still seems like it's completely all over the map, so everybody just let me know in the comments what you want them to do with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield going forward. There's a bunch of big stuff coming up. We've also learned a lot more about Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man 4, so I'll do a new video for that in the next couple of days too. Just a lot of Spider-Man stuff in general happening this week. Everybody click here for that brand new Deadpool and Wolverine Silence Your Phones PSA. It's hilarious. And click here for that complete plot from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 4 movie. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.